PTO, personal time off. You need it. It is a requirement. And if you plan to have successes and longevity in the work that you do, it's going to be a requirement. When you are going out of your lane into someone else's lane, we create a level of risk for ourselves. This is the stress that people are carrying with them every day. And there is a real root cause to why this happens. Hello and welcome inside the podcast. We're so happy to have you. Hey family, we apologize for the audio quality. We are in the beginning stages of our podcast and we're trying to fine tune all the glitches and clean those things up so we can bring you the best possible quality. Please charge it to our heads and definitely not our hearts. Today we're talking about work-life balance and the anxiety behind it. The reason why this is such a good conversation for us is because we have our personal life and then we have our work life and then we have something that happens in between and it seems to mesh together. And so today we're talking about the anxiety at work and how that impacts our personal life. So our first segment we're talking about is PTO guilt, PTO anxiety. It's like a phrase that I coined as a result of talking to so many clients that were overachievers, do-gooders, and oftentimes when it came to taking days off, they were stressed. Like submitting their personal time off, which you're entitled to, and for my employees, they know they get that a part of their compensation package. My entrepreneurs are a little bit different because when you run the business, oftentimes you don't factor in your own personal time off because you are the alpha and the omega of your business. So PTO gets a little bit more elusive when you're the owner. But as an employee, people get anxiety around taking time off. And the reason being, and several clients have told me this, and I've also experienced this, is that people are worried about having these inboxes that get crazy. They're overwhelmed with all these old emails that they need to go through once they get back to work. It is all the assignments that you're behind on, all the stress, getting up to speed on the assignments that you weren't there to participate in. We start feeling the weight of that, thinking about when we come back to the office. So what people end up doing inadvertently, they end up delaying their PTO. So what happens then? When you delay your PTO, now you're stressed, you're overwhelmed. People in your personal life, if they were taking PTO with you, might be a little bit upset with you because, hey, mom, cousin, friend was supposed to take off, and then you backed out of that trip or that event because you were too busy working. So what does that do? We get the anxiety, we get the guilt, and we get burnout because at the end of the day, we need rest, we need balance. And we know that because you're intelligent and you are a professional, but what are you gonna do? At the end of the day, you don't feel like you've satisfied anybody. You stayed at work, you got an attitude with everybody there. You go home, they have an attitude with you and your friends and your family, and then you're not even happy with yourself because you didn't even make you happy. So this is a relevant issue because this is the stress that people are carrying with them every day. And there is a real root cause to why this happens. So I want to start with some data. There's a study that shows that people who consistently take their PTO have a greater chance of getting promoted than those that don't. And, we could wonder why. And sometimes it's counterintuitive, but the person that's consistently taking time off is balanced. They are high performers because when they're at work, they're committed to work. When they go home, they're committed to their personal life. And how do we translate that? They've set boundaries on their work life and their personal life that the other people have not set. When you have those boundaries in place, you can take time off. and be okay with it. Oftentimes, when you are at work, you're training people during your regular work weeks that you don't have any time scheduled off. How you set your boundaries for when you start work, end work, or how you train other people, their expectations of you and how you work. You're also setting expectations for yourself. If you're working late every night, you're working early every night, you're not taking lunches, you have set poor boundaries for yourself and your own well-being. So when it gets to the time that you're supposed to schedule PTO, you're completely lost because you haven't practiced time management for your well-being on a regular basis. So by the time you get to a PTO opportunity, you're stressed. Even if you decide to take it, you're still stressed because you're on vacation, you're at an event, and you're still thinking about work. So one of the solutions on how to get rid of this PTO guilt and feeling is to start setting boundaries. And for some of my coaching clients, this might seem difficult. It might sound easy, but simple things like putting your out of office little reminder on just a regular Tuesday or Wednesday. If you start setting those boundaries, people will get the hint that, oh, you know what? Nikki's not available at 8 o'clock at night to answer your question, unless the building is on fire or something big is going on. She's not going to be available at 6 o'clock in the morning to answer a quick question. It's important that we set these standards for ourselves because now we have an operating system that is repeatable, that is something that other people can honor only if we start honoring it for ourselves. Now, let me be transparent with you. You do have your managers and supervisors that are out there that study how you work. And when they find that you have very low boundaries for how you work and the times that you work, there are people who will exploit that. They'll take advantage of it. And then they'll start telling you, well, this is what needs to happen to get this job done. Because you've already taught them that's what you'll do to get the job done. And what you find that you do for an isolated circumstance, you'll find yourself doing it for every circumstance. Now you're burnt out, you have low boundaries, you're unhappy, and then the final thing that typically happens is your performance starts to lag. Simply because mentally, physically, you're exhausted. And when you get to your end of year review or your quarterly check-in and you think, oh, it's going to be stellar because I've been an overachiever, I've been working above and beyond. And then you might find they may say you meet expectations, or they may say something like, maybe you're underperforming because last quarter you worked 50 hours a week on average, and now you're only working 45, or something to that effect. So this is how we have to control the narrative. We have to control our branding. And it's so key in being able to rid ourselves of this anxiety. This is a very specific thing. PTO, personal time off. You need it. It is a requirement. And if you plan to have successes and longevity in the work that you do, it's going to be a requirement. So this is something that I really want you to take to heart. If you had these kind of experiences, please give us some feedback in the comments below. We want to know if you have PTO anxiety. If you've experienced that, what did you do to kind of get past that? Maybe it was the work culture that you were in, that everybody did that. So if you did try to exercise a little bit of boundaries, perhaps you were the outlier in the group because that was the company culture. Please let us know. Your feedback is so important because we take that information and we will be bringing that back and giving that feedback out to other people, because at the end of the day, we want you to grow because we grow from this feedback as well. So this whole thing is a two-way street. We want it to be beneficial for you. And if anything hits hits a chord or strikes a nerve with you, let us know. Another thing I wanted to say for my do-gooders and overachievers, be careful. Here's a warning sign. Now this is one of my pro tips. All of it's really pro tips, but this is the extra step. If we're really being candid and honest, if you're that person that is that overachiever and you have low boundaries and you're working, not taking PTO, what happens when Susie, your coworker, decides that she's going to Jamaica and she's taking 7 days off? What is your first instinct or thought when she tells you that she's taking off? If you're burned out and exhausted, chances are there's going to be some animosity, because why isn't Susie working like me? Why isn't Susie foregoing her PTO? Why isn't Susie asking me if this is a good time for me that she takes off? All of this is unhealthy behavior. If these things are going through your mind and you're questioning the time that somebody else is taking off, that is an indicator for you that you have some level of anxiety related to paid time off or personal time off. This is an indicator that you need to do some self-checking, because chances are you are doing too much at work and you don't have enough separated time from the workplace. So just some things to consider. Again, drop some information in the description boxes, the comment boxes. Let us know if this strikes a chord with you, if you know somebody this is happening to, or if you're being treated like this in the workplace, and maybe some tactics that you've tried that have been effective or not. We want to know. This is your opportunity. I have an opportunity for you to start your own personal coaching journey. I created this journal called the 1% Journal. 1% represents Kaizen. It is a Japanese term for small but consistent progress can literally change your life. So in this journal, we have some information inside where you'll do your daily check-in. We have affirmations on each page. We talk about gratitude. We talk about goals and positive words for you each day. So get the journal. It's a great way to have some personal time. It's also a great way to watch this podcast. You can watch this podcast and actually do your reactions to it or discoveries that you've had in your journal, because this is a way that you're going to live moving forward. You can get this journal right at your front door. Just click the link in the description, and it's so easy just to get it. It's in our Shopify storefront along with some other cool stuff. You can get all of that right in our storefront. So just check the description. You can get it right there, right to your doorstep. Easy and convenient. Okay, we are back talking about more workplace anxiety, because we want to get better. Nobody wants to walk around carrying a lot of anxiety with them, and let's admit, much of that anxiety comes from the workplace. Once we can balance that out, now we can transition that in our personal life. And our next section that we're talking about is hero anxiety. Now, I will admit, these are kind of my coined phrases that I use with my clients so that they can acknowledge certain behavior right away. If they have PTO anxiety or guilt, which we talked about in the first segment about, feeling anxiety about taking time off from work, you can recognize it, right? That feeling. And when you can recognize it and name it, now you have a better chance of being able to solve the actual problem. So in the second half, we're talking about hero anxiety. And it sounds so counterintuitive. Why is being a hero filled with anxiety? Why should that be an issue in the workplace? I'll tell you why. And the story comes from one of my clients who is an overachiever and a do-gooder, right? We love those people in the office and in the workplace. The problem is that oftentimes he sees a problem and he races to solve it simply because it needs to be solved, and that's really his nature. But there are some risks involved. when you are racing to be the hero and to save the day. It's good when you want to help the project, help the people in the office, that's great. But when you are going out of your lane into someone else's lane, we create a level of risk for ourselves, right? So if everything goes well, we still could get some pushback because now you're stepping on someone else's toes and doing somebody else's job. And now they think you make them look bad if you were not invited into that solution. Because now we're taking liberties that really we weren't invited to do. So that becomes one of the risks. And then another risk is if you go into someone else's lane and it doesn't go well, now you're likely to get twice the blame because A, it didn't go well, it wasn't your job, and B, you were already outside your lane and not where you were supposed to be. So if you weren't invited into that situation and you took the onus on yourself, now you've created so much complication for yourself. Now you feel like you've gone from being the hero to being the villain, right? And that is a bad and sticky place to be. And I'm telling you about things that I've also experienced. Just because you wanted to just solve the problem so everybody can move on and things could be great, maybe you wanted to solve the problem so that it didn't come to you later. The problem is vision. We need vision to be able to see what's the surface level problem and what might be the at-large problem. Because there's lots of problems on the surface, like an iceberg, right? You know that analogy, you see an iceberg, the tip of it is above the water, but if you go down further, it's much bigger than it appears to be. Well, sometimes when we want to solve the iceberg tip, it seems like the right thing to do, but there is substantially more under that surface, and that root problem will never be addressed as long as the heroes race to the scene. And we think we're solving it, but in actuality, we're only masking the real problem. So what do? It's difficult to watch a problem exist and not do anything about it. And I'm not advocating for that in every situation, but what I am advocating for is for people to step back as a professional, even as an entrepreneur, step back and see the bigger picture and what the core problem is. And ask yourself, if you race to solve that problem, are you really solving the core issue, or are you only prolonging it? And are you taking unnecessary risk? It's a question that only you specifically can answer. But when we take time out to look at the bigger picture, now we can sit with it and make a rational decision for our next move. Now we're responding to the problem, not reacting to the problem. Reacting is just a quick response. I want to do good. My do good feeling is enough in this moment. But when I respond to the problem, I'm being strategic. I'm thinking about not only the well-being of my team, I'm also thinking about the well-being of myself and my career. Now, for some people that might sound selfish. If you don't look out for you, who's going to look out for you? You can still care about the project. You can still care about other people. But we may need to, instead of solving the problem by ourselves, maybe we need to engage more people on the team. Maybe they need to be a part of the solution. When I can involve more people to solve the problem, if I can influence the situation to get more people to care about it, now I increase the chance that I'm going to have sustainability in that solution. And that's really what we're looking for. And so sometimes it's that do-good feeling, that hero feeling that we really do want, that gives us instant gratification, can come back to haunt us. So I don't want you to go from hero to villain quickly. We want you to stay a hero. but we want you to be a hero to you first. And also take the time out to really see what's happening in that environment, because perhaps the person that should be solving the problem isn't solving the problem. Maybe the problem needs to grow a little bit more before the person who needs to be involved gets involved. But we can jump in a little too soon and make things convoluted. So if you have that hero anxiety, so to speak, maybe you've been burned, maybe you keep solving the same problems, so you think, and not really the core problem. If you're not getting recognized for some of the things you feel like you should, maybe you have hero anxiety. And maybe the real issue is being able to adjust the lens of your thinking and be able to see the big picture. And now we start looking at the cost and the reward, and what's the real reward, right? What's the real goal? Is the goal to create high-risk situations, or do we really want other people to do their jobs? Why do you have to keep going outside your lane? And maybe, just maybe, you want a different lane. If that really is your core goal, then this is a good time to be able to identify, like, what do I really want to do? Maybe the lane that I'm in isn't suiting me very well. Maybe I want something else. When you start getting to the core reason, then you start getting closely aligned with what you want in general. So those are a couple things to think about as we talk about workplace anxiety and how to manage yourself a bit better and become more balanced. Thank you for joining us. We so appreciate you. We hope that you got some nuggets and some gems out of this conversation that are really going to help you manage that anxiety, manage that stress, create a little bit more work-life balance. Join us again. We'll have more topics. Drop us some comments in the box what you want us to talk about as it relates to coaching, work-life coaching, and how to make all this stuff work. Join us again. Leave us some comments, and we'll see you back here on the podcast.